Grand Rapids is a fantastic city. It's growing, it's affordable, and it has a great cross of community and culture. Now, if you're thinking of moving to Grand Rapids, there might be some unexpected expenses that you might not be aware about. And today I want to break those down for you. I'm Joel, I'm your local West Michigan realtor, and hopefully today we can just change and set some expectations if you're thinking of moving to Grand Rapids and you aren't aware of some of the things that you might be coming across. Let's talk about it today and break it down in today's video. So the first expense I want to talk about, and that catches people out, is going to be property taxes. I think sometimes people will see a property tax number when they're looking for homes and think, oh great, that's what it's going to be. When in reality, when you purchase that home from somebody else, it's going to uncap the property tax and then change it to the current market value. And so realistically, even though you might see a lower number, you're going to end up paying whatever the new market value is going to be. So you want to think about that and kind of plan for 1 to 2% to pay yearly as your property tax, and keep that in mind that, hey, I might see this low number that's really appealing, but I got to pause for a second and think, okay, what's it actually going to bump up to when it comes time after we purchase the house? And one last thing to note about the property taxes, it's not so much that they're overly expensive in Michigan, let alone Grand Rapids, but more so just something to be aware of. So don't want to get the wrong idea here that we have overly abundant or high property taxes, but rather just something that some people forget about through the home buying process. Now, I focus a lot of my business on relocating clients, and if you're coming from a place or state much warmer than Michigan, which is not hard because we are in the north, you might not be ready for the cost of heating in the winter. Some things to think about is that we have winter and heat for probably 4 to 6 months depending on the year, and so you got to really factor that in of what's that extra cost going to be. And when you go through the process of looking at homes and considering which ones might interest you, you got to think, okay, do we have good insulated windows? Is the insulation in the house good? And what's the life of the furnace like? Is that something that's needing to be serviced or possibly replaced soon? And that would be another big, if it was needing to be replaced, that'd be another big cost to think about. On top of that, I'm going to add in a little bonus here. Some other things to think about for the winter is shoveling your driveway and keeping your car clean from the snow, which will make more sense once you live here in the winter, and just a couple other things like that. So the winter brings a couple of unexpected things, but especially with the expenses, you got to think, how much more are we going to be paying for that heat in the winter time? So I just gave a bonus tip about the cold months in the winter, especially with snowfall, and something big you got to think about for unexpected expense number 3 is going to be year-round landscape care. So whether that is lawn care and just general hardscape landscape in the summer, or whether that is going to be snow removal in the winter. Some homes are in a neighborhood where there's an HOA that will cover that. But remember, you're going to be paying the HOA to do that as well. And so we need to be aware of what those costs might be. Now, maybe you want to pay someone else separately, and you're probably looking in the summertime for just a simple lawn care. You're probably looking $30 to $50 a week, can fluctuate obviously. And then also similarly in the winter, if you're looking at having someone plow, I would say you're probably looking a little bit more, and that is going to fluctuate even more because if it doesn't snow, you don't pay them. If it snows, you pay them. Some companies will also have a seasonal contract that they'll write up for you where you just pay a flat fee, and then anytime it snows, you don't have to think about paying extra, not paying whatever, and they'll just take care of it for you. So that's going to be the unexpected expense number 3. What do you have to pay for summertime lawn care landscape? What do you got to pay for wintertime snow removal? Another one of those unexpected expenses, and this will be number 4, is going to be the water and sewer expense. Now, this is something that obviously you know you're going to have to pay, but maybe it ends up being a little bit higher than you expected if you forgot about watering your yard, or maybe you have a pool or something like that, which hopefully at that point you would remember it. But these are just a couple areas and a couple things where you got to think about how much more am I going to be paying to cover some of those things. In those hot summer months, you can dry out your yard terribly quick, and if you aren't watering it, and so that's something you want to take into expense. Now, if you live outside a little bit more of the city more, you might be on a well and septic system. That's going to have a different cost to it. And so that's just something to keep in mind to it as well. So that's unexpected expense number 4 is going to be your water and sewer. Definitely want to keep those in mind as we go through the home buying process and think about how those are going to affect your budget. All right, we are on to unexpected expense number 5, and we're going to be talking about automotive, both transportation and maintenance. Pretty much everybody in Grand Rapids is going to be commuting into, if you're working in the city, you're going to be commuting into the city via vehicle. Now, if you live in the city, you might be using bicycle in the summer, but in the wintertime, you got to remember that's going to get pretty cold. Now, we have bus systems in Grand Rapids, which are fantastic. However, I find that most people still will use their own vehicle. So you got to think of fuel cost, maintenance cost for those oil changes, filters, and just other general maintenance. You can get the bus system. That's fantastic. There's lots of great expense options there in terms of like paying for a monthly card or things like that. So always want to factor in the budget. Hey, I might be driving a little bit farther than I'm used to. I'm going to be putting more miles on my vehicle. That means I'm going to be spending more on gas and more on maintenance. So keep that in mind as we go through picking out the location of the house, how much farther you might be driving or not. Okay, number 6, this is last but not least, we want to talk about home maintenance. As I've talked about throughout this video, we've got Michigan gets all 4 seasons, which is a fantastic thing, but it also has its downsides as well. One of which is going to be the winters can be hard on the house. So you got to think about things like roof, replacing a roof possibly, replacing siding, and then your driveway as well. I can remember countless times of my dad having to reseal his driveway. That's besides the point, but main point being here is just that you want to keep that in mind of keeping, try to set aside maybe 1% of your house's value, just kind of a rule of thumb. Kind of set that aside every year or 2 years, set aside 1% of your house's value to plan to use towards maintenance. Houses are not meant to last forever, unfortunately. And so you just got to keep in mind, okay, hey, we need to set some money aside to make sure our house stays in good shape so that it doesn't deteriorate any faster by us not taking care of it. So keep that in mind, and let's wrap it up and end the video. Okay, so wrapping it up, we've talked about 6 different unexpected expenses. We started with property tax. We've talked about the heating costs, the snow and lawn care, and we also talked water, sewer bills, commuting, transportation with the automobile, and then last but not least, we talked about home maintenance. Now, don't get me wrong, Grand Rapids is still a very affordable and fantastic place to live, and it's not so much that these things are overly expensive living in Grand Rapids, but more so just we want to remember to think about these things as we go through your home buying process or relocating process. How are we going to fit these in the budget? Do these fit the budget? Do we need to consider a different area of Grand Rapids to accommodate those things? So just really that's what today's video is about. It's not to be a negative about, hey, Grand Rapids is too expensive, but more so just how do we plan for these potential expenses? If you're thinking of moving to Grand Rapids, I want to work with you. I want to chat with you and talk about what might be the best options for you. Are we going to look at some of those suburbs outside the city? We're going to look in. I want to fight in your corner to find you the best deal possible. I'm going to put my phone number here and I'll have it in the description as well. And I'd love to work with you, talk with you about what might be the best option for you in Grand Rapids. And yeah, so feel free, give me a call, give me a text, whatever it is, and let's talk. And everybody have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Take care.